Well, I'm deeply humbled and really touched. Thank you so much. I wish my mother would be here. She still thinks I'm the little boy from the courtyard that breaks everything and puts the TV apart and everything. I'm really humbled and I'm really honored and truly grateful to be here with you today. I feel a little bit like an imposter after two previous speakers. You know, I'm a urologist. What am I going to do on stage? And when Peter called me and said, look, I want you to give a talk, and he told me who else is coming, I said, no way, I'm not coming. Then he said, no, you need to come and talk about what you do. I said, what do you think? People are going to want to learn from a urologist how to do a rectal exam or know what priapism is or how Viagra was developed and things like that. He said, no, talk about what you're passionate about. And I said, you know, okay, we can work about that. I mean, nobody wants to hear about how cancer drugs are developed and things like that, but maybe how to put passion and how to put inspiration into people and how to take that little fire and grow it and make it special. As I was coming here, I was telling also my daughter, I was driving her to school and I said, Daddy's not gonna be. I said, Esther is her name. I said, Esther, tonight I'm gonna go to a conference. She said, what, again? I said, yes, she's 6 years old, right? And she says, what are you gonna do there? I said, I'm gonna go to learn. I said, what, learning? You're so old, is she still learning? Yes, it's a continuous learning. So, and when Peter asked me, what is gonna be the title of your talk? And I said, 13 tips for successful and a happy career. You know, when I have a talk in the future, I make up some title. I said, probably it's gonna be the title. And then when I was preparing the talk, I said, I have only 11 for you. So I'll wait for 2 more. I may email it to you and you're gonna get that. So I tried to put it into, you know, a nutshell and said, okay, what can I tell you that you don't know? And part of it, you know it and you feel it in your heart. And you have heard it from the previous speakers and many previous speakers and your teachers, that we can put as an essence, as tips that can help you a little bit think along. And this is specifically designed, what I call for Central Europe. I lived 20 years in the United States. I got really inspired, and everything I'm gonna tell you is nothing for me, it's nothing original. It's the same if my daughter's gonna grow up, she's gonna figure out all the stories I'm telling her, it's just all made up. It's a little bit of Star Wars, a little bit of things, she's gonna figure that out. So nothing I'm telling you here, it's from me, it's what I learned from my teachers. And it's for Central Europe. Let's see. Those want to stick with us? Here we go again. So these are things that I've learned that hopefully help you along in your career, and you can look back and say, okay, this may be interesting, and this helps me. So let me very fast say who I am. My brother always introduces me, I have an older brother who always makes fun of me because I'm sort of the loser, the black sheep of the family, and he says he's a penis master. I said, no, I'm not a penis master, I'm a surgeon scientist. So I'm a surgeon scientist, and I'm proud of it because this is a dying breed, as we heard before. People that are excited about medicine of today but want to do medicine of the future. And I was telling a few students, when I was a student, I was studying medicine, I studied mathematics, and I said, I never want to be a doctor because, you know, they always repeat what I've learned 30 years ago. It's so boring, and it's not based on evidence. But that is changing. This is the most exciting time. It's going to get even more exciting in your career as you're moving along. A lot of things are going to happen. But I don't believe you're ever going to be a good doctor if you don't understand science, you don't do science at some time in your moment, in your life, and how you don't excel in fostering science and critical thinking, because science arises from critical thinking. That's what you need to learn. Not techniques, not things, but how to ask questions, as you heard before, and how potentially learn tools how to address them. This is my life, very briefly, you know. As Peter put it, I'm a son of a refugee. Refugee family, the Iranian Revolution happened, my parents fled, we went from country to country, we were extremely poor, very, very poor. We had no clothes, we had no things, we were living in a small apartment that was barely 3 by 5 meters. Bathroom was in a hallway, shared with a lot of other people until the age of 12. I took clothes, we lived on food stamps. But one thing that my parents always did, they invested in education. They said, if we're going to do something, we're going to invest in education. And they always gave me that love for education, knowledge, and to use that as a success to move along in a career. And you are in a very specific place and moment. The program that you see here, that Andras, Peter, and many other people that have come here that created for you is really something unique. And that uniqueness is absolutely important in this entropy that's increasing around the world. You hear a lot of negative news, things that are happening, but you are in a safe place where you can grow safely, happily, and use that to create a better world. And it's an obligation. I will come back to that. I was very lucky to train a large part of my career in the United States, publish and learn from a lot of my mentors. I'm very proud to be a doctor honoris causa at the Semmelweis University, and I will come back to Semmelweis. And I do a lot of other things, but what is taking 30% of my time is working on 2 large charities for refugees. Other people shouldn't have the hardship I went through, and advocacy groups with patients. And I think as a doctor, the most important thing, the most important questions always come from your patients. So you see, I'm coming from the back end, what you heard before. It's great to think in an abstract world. I use the patient as my model. I use the patient to drive me what to do. I leave the patient to give me feedback and to become better. And I'm always humbled by that, because whatever we do, we have not yet fulfilled our promise to the patients. And growing that muscle of empathy is also a very important factor. My disclosures, as a scientist, I work with a lot of companies. None of them will come to this talk, except that I have a strong belief of these sentences being my life motto, per aspera ad astra. Through hardship, discomfort, you have to put you actively in to go to the stars. And going to the stars is the minimum I expect from myself, and that's the minimum you should expect from yourself. The dreams you had as children, the things that were in your heart when you were thinking, the things that are driving you today, don't let anybody extinguish that fire. Grow that and be perseverant and be resilient. Where I work currently at the Vienna Medical School, it's a long tradition of world-class medicine there. In 1365 it was created. It's one of the largest medical schools, and that is for me very important, to work with students, because the students, the young, bright minds, always challenge you, make you better, and actually you have to stay up to the foot. And I said at a hospital to learn. That was the birthplace of specialized medicine. A lot of wonderful people were working there, and for me this is the example of Central Europe, how it works together, right? If you look at these names, most of them are not Austrian, but it was a very special place in time where a lot of discoveries were done, and that is a legacy, but it's also an obligation. You all have an obligation. It's not you can do what you want. You were born at the right time, at the right place, you had the right opportunities, you were given chance of intellect, health, and financial means to have opportunities. You have an obligation to use that to make a better place for other people who didn't have those chances, for the next generations. So number 1, I think for Central Europe, dream big. You heard it before. Dreaming big is important. You have it in your life. You have to strive to be superb, to do something special with your life, not have a mediocre life. I hate mediocrity. When I see mediocrity, it drives me nuts, because that is often what in Central Europe would get people to do, and that you have to break out of that mold. This is mostly people that have fallen short or didn't have the opportunities that can drag you down. Being different is good. Diversity is enriching. The more diverse, more different you are, the more you add value to the team. This is, I think, one important thing to that diversity is your curiosity. Curiosity is a muscle. Asking questions, and you heard before the 2 previous speakers, they're all incredible curious people. And you shouldn't lose that. People I see at a young age have that, ask a lot of questions, but then as they're learning more, they get into the box we heard, and they cannot escape from that box. You have to decondition that box. Einstein says, I have no special talent, I'm only passionately curious. And if you sit at dinner, and yesterday I was at dinner with wonderful people, I wanted to ask them questions. They're asking me questions. They're people that are fostering a curiosity, asking other people, learning from them. That's what you need to do. Number 2, be ready. Be ready means prepare your mind. Every day, put yourself closer to the goal. Have a vision. Why you're there, you know already since a young age. Why you're here. And then now, it's only working how to fulfill it and to make it in something tangible. How you're going to move to that, to deliver that how and that what you're going to deliver. And do something every day that puts you closer to that goal. When your mind, your soul is aligned with that goal, when the opportunity shows, you're going to grab it. So people say, it's luck. Yes, it's luck, but you need to recognize that luck and take that luck. That often happened in my life where I was in situations where I got an offer where people tell, oh, let me think about it, is it plus or minus? And I always said, yes, let's do it. Take the adventure, take the risk. What is the worst thing can happen? Mistake, you learn from it, you grow, you do something different. Number 3, start as early as possible. Often, people in our region say, well, I'm not ready yet, let the other people, I need to take care of myself, later I will have time. That's not the case. Most brilliant ideas you will have, most things that will change the world, already you have in your age, right? They're not gonna happen later. Creativity in science has a peak in a young age. So you need to have that idea, and then maybe it takes 10, 20 years to fulfill it, but looking for it. So that is extremely important, and you are very unique at this moment, and use that creativity to ask the stupidest question that may matter, because those questions are probably the best questions. But at the same time, you need to be very focused, and that has been, for me, my biggest problem in my career. I love everything. I like history, I have done a degree in history, I like this, I like that. But the reality, if you want to be successful, you need to be really focused. In the United States, the thing they tell always you, focus, focus, focus. That's always the thing. Take that thing, work on it, work hard on it, repeat, fail, and be like an obsessed person to deliver that, that result or an alternative result, but working on that question that matters. Focused energy is power. My teacher always told me, be the master of one, not mediocre of all. And Einstein says here, any man who can drive safely while kissing a pretty girl is simply not giving the kiss the attention he deserves. Multitasking doesn't bring you forward. Number 3, be courageous. Courage is something that also needs to be grown. None of those things are naturally one guy or one lady has it. It's really something you need to work on. So you need to take risks, trust your instinct, and make mistakes. If you want to be successful or be of value to the society, you need to triple your number of mistakes you're making. Don't be afraid. Mistakes are not a failure. That is totally, in Central Europe, we're thinking, oh, he made a mistake, that's it, it's finished, gone. And you heard the question before. How are you going to make sure you're not making mistakes? No, in the contrary, I want to make mistakes because the mistakes I learn more than the things that go well. Put yourself in discomfort to grow. Challenge dogma, not just to challenge dogma, but if it doesn't make sense. New ideas, brilliant ideas, and you heard it from previous brilliant people, are resistant by supposedly smarter people. I had a chance one time to be on a mountain who was snowed in on a meeting with a brilliant person named Judah Folkman who discovered angiogenesis. I would almost say he invented angiogenesis. So the poor guy was sitting me, I was a 24-year-old gentleman, and asking him a lot of questions. And one of the questions, he told me in his life how difficult it was. At the beginning, his discoveries, nobody believed in. He repeated the experiments. People said, that is not true, that is wrong. He rejected his grants, he had no money, and he was not happy. And at the end, when it started to turn out to be true, what happened? All those people that rejected his ideas turned their huge labs with hundreds of people in it to do the research he was doing. He had to give up his position as chief of pediatric surgery just to keep up the speed to not be the last one on the discovery of angiogenesis and the role of angiogenesis. And you know how many drugs have been developed that target angiogenesis and so many cancers and other diseases. So all truth passes through different stages. First, it is ridiculed. Number 2, it's violently opposed, and then it's called to be self-evident. The reality is, when we submit and make a research project, and it is really rejected. My students come and say, you know, it's rejected 2 reasons. Probably you're too brilliant, it's amazing, or it's really crap. You will only figure that out if you persevere and test and make further experiments. So if something gets through easily, it's just nudging and a small idea that is added on. So you have to go through that phase if you're really going for something big. Number 5, make the best of what you have. This has been something I've only really designed for you guys. Wherever I go, I say, oh, in America they have so much money, these guys have that, and this has become, you know, social media life, this guy has that. He's a better mentor, he has a better car, he has a better parents, he has always looking why one other person is successful, and then explaining to yourself why you're such a failure. You want to be at the end of your life saying, I failed because of these other things. Nobody's going to care why you failed. They're just going to say you failed and you're an unhappy person, you're a depressed person. So never attribute your failure to the work environment. There is just not an ideal work environment. Every university, every environment has weaknesses and strengths. And you have to make the best with what you have here. Actually, in sometimes harder environments, you're going to be more successful. When I moved to the United States, I was a student. I made my final exam, I moved, I had a job, you know, they were looking for a fellow in gene therapy. I had no clue. I said, gene therapy? I didn't even know what gene therapy was, right? I thought, well, okay, let's sign up for that. And then I signed up for that. I got the position. I couldn't find anybody else, probably. And I took the plane. I went to Houston. I landed in Houston. I'd never heard about Houston, right? There was a rodeo going on. I said, oh, my God, there's cows, there's things here. I'm coming from Europe. What type of world did I get myself into it? I come at work. I say, my mentor is not here. They tell me, he's left to New York. He forgot to write me a letter. You know, it was before internet. So he's moved with all the labs and everything to New York. So I was here. I said, okay, what am I going to do? And I called him and said, I'm so busy, I don't really have time really to, you know, I'm building everything up here. He became the chief of surgery there at Memorial Sloan Kettering, a really big person, a big team. And I thought, okay, I'm going to look for another mentor here. I have the position. I'm going to try to set up a lab. I found a young mentor. I tried to set up a lab. I tried to learn other things. I learned how to statistics. For 5 years, I was trying to somehow survive, write grants, small grants, support, and so on, to learn. Those 5 years of hardship, of learning, were the most formative and most important years. I had a lot of people that helped, because one thing that is important you have to learn is accept when you're vulnerable and ask for help. Ask for help. You don't have to be perfect. Ask. You're vulnerable. Say, please, can you help me do this? And I asked a lot of people. I really developed that skill of talking to people and getting their help. And I learned statistics, biostatistics, clinical trials. I set up a lab. I bought everything wrong. I had to rebuy it. I had to do the money. I was cleaning the things and a side job. I had 2 other side jobs to pay my lab. I was cleaning another lab in the afternoon to be able to pay for my lab or the things I was doing. It will come out in a second. So, I hope so. Okay, so don't make excuses. Push ahead with what you have. True winners transform a defect. So, for example, for you can say, I don't have 1,000 patients to test a question, but maybe in your environment you have questions and diseases that nobody sees, or different spectrum. Use that, study that, and you may be discovering something very important. True winners, I said, transform the defect, and I love that guy. Look at this. He didn't have a Lamborghini money, but he constructed off the paper his own Lamborghini, and he loves it. You're the one who shapes the environment. Don't let the environment shape you. Here we go. So I believe whatever you cannot do, find partners who can do it. These are all the universities I work on, you know? And we have Mr. GFP running in the back. So find a Mr. GFP that helps you. Get the things, the skill sets. Research is now multinational and global. You can be where you are. I don't want that talent to leave the country. Stay in your country. You find your mentors and find partners and things around the world that can work with you and find solutions to the questions you have. Tip 6, work hard. This is very important. This is like something people think, I can do it in 5 minutes. Attention span is 5 minutes, I can do it. You know, relationships are done with swiping. There's no more effort. It's not like when we used to go to clubs and discotheques and we said, hey, how you doing? You know, working out as well, failure, oh my God, I'm embarrassed. Everything in life you think is going to come fast. No. In every relationship, and science is about relationships as well, it's relationships to the people you're going to work, to the mentors, to the technicians, to the people, to your patients. That needs to be worked. And you need to immerse yourself in the problematic, like an obsessed one. Often people say, oh, you're so obsessed. I don't think it's a negative thing. I'm thinking about it. When I'm walking in the forest, I'm thinking about the problem. When I'm sleeping, probably my subconscious is looking for answers because those things matter to me. So think, dream, and treat the patients with a problem and that you matter to you and matters to the patients. The creativity often works in ways you cannot imagine it. Perseverance is also priceless. When I asked Judah Folkman, I said, what is the key to your success? Give me one answer, right? I wanted the one answer back in time. He said, perseverance. Had I stopped at the beginning with my idea, people would have called me a fool. Just because I persevered, now they call me a genius. So perseverance is priceless. And what does that mean translated to you? Perseverance is believing in what you do. Perseverance also means working hard at night when everybody else is, taking 1 hour off, 1 hour read 5 articles. I tell my doctors when they come to me, I said, when everybody is going home, go back to your sick patients, sit at the bedside, grab their hand, take their hand if they want it, and talk to them and say, what matters to you? How can I help you? And try to learn about them, about the human behind that disease. Because today we're treating CT scans, genomic data, and lab values, but these are humans. So despite working hard, you need also to work smart, right? This is how things go. It's not that simple. So if something is way too complex to explain something, then you need to find easier solutions. Make it important but simple. What does that mean? Often in research, you do a lot of projects that do not matter because they're low-hanging fruit. I hate when people say, this is a low-hanging fruit. I say, don't low-hanging fruit, grab it, throw it out the garbage can. I don't care about low-hanging fruits. I want the one experiment that proves it, right or wrong. As difficult as it is, go to the heart of the matter. There's definitely not, I don't know why it isn't happening, maybe it's too high. I apologize for that. So do the experiment that goes to the heart of the matter, and don't waste your time or anybody else's time. Tip 7. Now I'm going to tell you, before I told you, believe in yourself, be courageous. And I'm telling you, believe in the hypothesis, but also play the devil's advocate. It's extremely important that you also are respectful of others and listen to different opinions and build that in your understanding of what you're doing. Because they will tell you when they reject your paper, when they give you criticism, when you go to a meeting, your mentor is here to critique you. Who loves you most criticizes you. Doesn't say good, good, fantastic, move on. Doesn't say that. Doesn't judge you, but critiques you and said that you could do better. What do you think about that? And stimulates you to do the things. I was very poor. That helped me a lot. You know why? Because I was never invited to parties because we couldn't bring gifts to the people because I couldn't be at a birthday party of anybody. So what did I do? Mind experiments. Try to do mind experiments. Play in your mind, ask questions. What else? If that is true, what happens? What is the alternative hypothesis? In the United States, when you submit a grant, they tell you, what if you find what is true? What is if the alternative hypothesis is true? What other experiments would you do? Play that in your mind, mental level. I was talking to some students about the chess game and the chess competition that's currently happening. In your mind, play that through multiple layers going forward. Specifically, it will be helpful in academia because academia is a hard environment to survive. So the greatest discovery we heard before that you will ever have is by finding something you totally didn't expect. So I told you when I was in the lab, I had I was clueless. So I hired this guy. I hired a guy from Vietnam. I said he sent me his CV. I hired the Vietnamese. He couldn't speak English. I couldn't speak good English back in the time as well. So we were talking. Then I hired a Chinese guy who couldn't speak Vietnamese. He couldn't speak English. And so we were a dysfunctional trio. So here I had a little bit of money. I had just got a grant that I wrote. I don't know why people gave me money. And we were doing this experiment. I was sure I'm going to find something that is a biomarker for prognosis in a cancer. And we were doing this experiment, and suddenly my $150,000 were gone because these guys had repeated 5 times the same experiment, and they didn't find what I was expecting to find. I was so disappointed. I thought, they idiots. I said, what are you doing? Why you don't speak? Come. And at the end, I could have done it much easier. They had just discovered a biomarker that afterwards we patented. There was a very significant biomarker at that time that explained how the cancer metastasizes to the lymph nodes. I just didn't see it. It was there from the beginning. And multiple of my other discoveries were just like that. By chance, by accepting the alternative hypothesis or really looking at the data, because the data tells you the truth. And this computer is telling me not to talk too long. Okay, I will make it shorter. Be nice to me. So this is what the surgeon scientist is happening. You know, we in medicine had the concept of miasma and all this and the 4 humors, and then suddenly comes somebody who looks at anatomy. Anatomy comes, you know, Rembrandt's picture with all the mistakes that were in it. And today, a good surgeon or a surgeon scientist is not what he used to be. You need to understand molecular biology, but that could be to any part of medicine. You need to understand molecular biology. You need to run clinical trials, understand the data of the clinical trials. You need to understand what genetics is, because genetics is now finally coming into the world, looking at BRCA mutation, Lynch syndrome, how does that change the cascade of testing, the family risk, prevention strategies, and it moves on and forth. There's so many flavors to research that are exciting. Public health, policy making, there's so many things, and it's so exciting it is that it really is becoming a world where there's, for everybody, something in it. But try to be more than just a physician that is treating the patient. That is also good. Educate. I always say I want you to have 2 hats, if not 3 hats or 4 hats. For my field, I think we are really, for those that are doing medicine and science, this is the golden age. And it's always, next year is going to be the golden age even more. We have solved every disease in the animal models, in the cell lines. We have found discoveries that are incredible. It's about you to translate it to the patient. And that breed of people who are translating medicine are dying. Why? Forces of economy, physicians need to produce money, and because people say it's work-life balance. So work-life balance means like, you know, ciao, I'm going to go home, I'm not going to think about it at 5 o'clock because I need to do something else. No, we have a responsibility, we have opportunities, this is the best time. And it's exciting. For me as a urologist, they make fun of me because I operate, 3 to 4 days a week I'm operating. I love it. I've never found a patient who loves it, actually. It's always only me. The bigger, the better it is. I'm a typical, testosterone man, right? I'm here, the bigger the whack, the cooler it is. I tell my friends, look, I took this out, I put it there, and I said, what? The reality, the future lies in prevention, right? So the mission cancer of the EU has shown it, prevention, early detection. Artificial intelligence, people are very scared about. I'm surprised nobody asked questions to the 2 brilliant speakers before. How that's going to change science, how that's going to change our society, but it's going to change medicine dramatically. And integrating, embracing it, and it will allow us to become more human again. Not integrating this complex data. Currently, people come to me, I want to come to a fifth opinion. I say 5 top doctors in Europe. Now I want you to tell me what you think I should get, which drug I should get based on that. The reality, all that artificial intelligence will do is you just communicate with the patients, spend time, give them empathy, give them love, give them security, trust, hope. Simulation surgery will dramatically change the way we're going to do surgery or medical care. But one thing that will never disappear, and it's the only thing from the old world that's going to remain, technology, you're going to do applied research. You're going to take everything you find in artificial intelligence, you're going to ask, is it really true? You're going to do experiments and so on. So you need to understand those techniques and use them, and at least understand what they mean. For the healthcare model, we're going to see dramatic changes happening. It's going to go from what I learned, maximally invasive, now we do minimal invasive, so robotic surgery, to non-invasive. We're going to move from the hospital to the outpatient setting, this diagnosis, treatment, prevention, and so on. So I'm training the next urologist of the future, and it's going to be part surgeon only. Tip 8, work on important issues. Don't waste your time, don't waste anybody's time, don't waste the tax monies, the euros. Don't let. Work on important data, important and create important results. For you that are going to go into medicine or in a healthcare area, would be nurses, nutritionists, or whatever, what is important to my patient? How can I improve their health, their hope, their outcomes by large degree, not by a small nudge? That is what you need to work on. Also, very young on, you need to start fostering creativity and participate in a process. What do I mean? Surround yourself by people in other specialties, other fields. Totally, you will learn from anybody ideas. Meet the people, initiate discussions, create those safe havens where that exchange happens, where the creativity flows. I have an open door policy, so my office people walk in, walk out, the researcher, hey, I have a question. I let that happen, that flow to happen, despite all the administration, and do all the administration at night when everybody else is gone. So it's very important that brainstorming is important and it needs to happen in very specific places, and you will be more surprised how you're going to make your biggest discovery or the biggest idea you will have. It comes from somebody you would have never amazed, and it will sit next to you. And I had, for example, a thing at my work when I was at Cornell. One project I got the biggest grant was a lady that came to me, and she was a cleaning lady at that place. And she came and said, you know, doctor, I have a problem. My son, he had testicular cancer. You cured him, you operated him, but why does testicular cancer stop at the age of 30? And it happens in the first 30 years. I thought, my God, nobody has asked that. I looked at the literature, nobody has asked that question. Why that cancer happens at that certain age, and other cancer happen in later ages. So we started writing a grant. And then this same lady, as one day she was coming back, and we wrote a grant with her, and she was coming back, and she told to me, you know what, I want to understand something. I said, what? And you know, nobody talks to the cleaning lady, right? You have no time for her. But that lady asked me, look, my husband has prostate cancer, and you told us this is not an aggressive cancer, but he keeps coming back, he's metastasized, he's getting these hormones. You told us testicular cancer is a terrible disease because it's really aggressive. In 3 months, in 3 weeks, it was metastatic, but you give chemotherapy and he's cured. What happened here? And I said, that's brilliant. So I'm gonna make a model where I'm gonna transfect the prostate cancer patients with embryonal cancer of the testis, which is much more aggressive in an ecosystem, will outsmart the prostate cancer, will eat all the food, and will be the most cancer, and then I'm going to give chemotherapy and cure them. So I wrote this grant from this cleaning lady. I got rejected from the ethics committee as being the most unethical person, infecting somebody with a more aggressive cancer to cure it afterwards. But I think these are ideas that can happen around yourself. Also, you know, I had patients that I was treating with placebo. So I came up with a project doing placebo versus placebo. So the ideas you can come up that are really the significant ideas may be ideas that come from other people that are very special. So, okay, as we're moving, I think in academia at the end of the world, I know this is changing. You think that social media and short messages are the most important way of communication, but publications are the most important and will remain the most important, not only for academic progression, but also to share. Publication is about sharing your knowledge with others. One day I was coming to a meeting, I was driving to a meeting, I was telling that to Peter. My brother is in the art world, he's a contemporary art specialist. He's much smarter, faster, better than me. He's a really funny guy. We were close. And he was telling me, where are you going? I said, I go to a conference. He said, oh, so you're not working here, so you're losing time here and you're not making money. Yes. Are you paying to the Congress? Are they paying you? They're flying you business? No, I'm paying myself. Okay. And what are you doing there? I said, I'm giving everybody everything I know. I said, you must be a triple idiot, right? This is academia. We are in a sacred world where we share everything we have, we give everything we have, and we have a common understanding. And it's not for us. It's for the future of humanity you're working, and you never know that idea or the thing you publish. And publishing is very important. And every job is a self-portrait of the person who did it. You need to autograph it with excellence, and it needs to be the standard of the moment. It may not stand the standard of the future. If I look at my papers back, I'm like sometimes embarrassed. Sometimes I'm happy, sometimes I'm embarrassed. I said, wow. Sometimes I have people come to me, but 4 years ago you said something else. I said, we know the data was the data, and now I learned it's evolved. I was telling the story that when I was a student, I wrote a lot of articles. I had already written over 100 articles by the time I was 23. So I was very prolific, I had the right mentors, I was working and so on, 24. So I was working and so on, and then suddenly I was sitting in the clinic, I was first-year resident, right? I had no clue, I didn't even know how to do a prostate biopsy or anything. I was learning, and there was at a county hospital, a poor people's hospital, there was somebody knocking the door, and there was this guy in front of the door. He said, I'm from Ghana. I said, yes. I said, I came here to be operated by you. I said, by me? Why? He said, well, my son looked in the internet, he found an article, you described this new technique, and that is supposedly much better. So all the village, everybody got together, we collected money, we flew here for you. You know, this was obviously a really poor guy. He couldn't even properly speak English, he had no education, nothing. He came, and I realized everything you publish matters. Somebody reads it, thinks it to be true, shares it, and acts on it. And you have to be very careful about that. Tip 11, start giving back to the community. This is the last one, you're lucky. The computer is also lucky. So giving back to the community, it doesn't start, people think, I'm gonna give back, and I make the mistake, the joke, like, it's like America, right? You steal a lifelong from the people, take money, and then at the end you think you're gonna give 60% back and you can redeem yourself and go to heaven. It's not like that. You need to give back as you get along, because you're giving back in many ways, every day. Younger students, other people, patients, colleagues, many ways of giving to your community. There is no one single way. But also that you need to do consciously. When people call you, don't say, I have to work on my thing. Stop and give them what they need. Sometimes you will see people that are distressed, depressed. Take the time, caress them, tell them it's important, answer the question. It's very important to be compassionate. It is also important for your career. So I started at Vienna, and there was this guy who was on the floor, a nurse, right? So everybody, you know, the Viennese doctors run around, they're big professors, and I stepped and stopped talking over to this person, asked how he's doing, and so on. Turns out this nurse is the head of the whole nursing school now. Guess, I'm so dependent on him, and thanks God I was nice to him. So you never know how he's gonna come back, but don't do it for the things that comes back. Really, true happiness is if you don't expect anything in return. Don't do it for money, don't do it for power, don't do it for success. Expect nothing, just do it to be good, and you will see how happy you will be. Creating value is important. It's not about success, it's about creating value for others. Discover your talent and share that with others. And part of that is mentorship. If we continue in a structure of mentorship we have now often, we will end up alone. You know? Mentor, the word mentors comes from the Odyssey, actually comes from before, from the Iliad. You know, Homer, 3,000 years ago, he writes his story of the king of Ithaca, Odysseus, that goes on this travel for the war of Trojan War. He's 10 years there, and then he takes another 10 years to come back. Why he's gone? He gives his son, Telemachus, to his friend and confidant, mentor, who should take care of him, grow him, and treat him like a son. And we had the question early on, what is mentorship? Mentorship is caring about somebody and trying to make them better as you want, not to project on them what you want, but growing them, inspiring them, not motivating them, but inspiring them, not judging them, but giving them advice. Mentorship is also something you need to train, and you need to also train how to be a good mentor. And you will find your mentor mostly outside of your field. It's a very special connection. This is one of my mentors. Actually happens to be my uncle. He's a professor of sociology. He's the most disagreeable person I've ever encountered. Everything that since childhood, I tell him something, he answers me, no, you're not correct. Let's think about it like that. So he's good. And he taught me 5 things that have been very important for me. One is an obsession with learning, continuously trying to learn from others and reading and so on. Embracing discomfort is good because through discomfort you grow. Rejecting the status quo. If something feels good, you know, people all agree to something in a room, I don't want that. I only hire, I said that before, I only hire people who disagree with me. If people come to my table at my working in the morning meetings, like everybody is like, no, we should do this, I have this argument, I read this article. At the end, we agree on something. But that process, that friction is very important to move forward, specifically in academia. It's also persisting when others give up. It's also inspiring those around you, giving, giving, giving. It's all those things in one. Finally, the most important, you have to love what you do. When you came here this morning, what did you think about? Did you think about what I'm going to do at 7 o'clock? Or did you think about what I'm going to learn that day? Being conscious about what you're going to get that day. When you go to a place, think about how can I help this patient that yesterday I saw? How can I make that difference? How can I spend that additional minute? How can I teach a young guy that asked me a question and I read it yesterday? And sharing that love with others. Don't expect in academia or anything, any money, honor, fame, power. I promise you, when Marty went this morning to the post office to get his, where's Marty? To get his stamps, the post officer had no clue who Marty was, Nobel Prize winner. All that doesn't count. Don't expect anything for it. Do it because you love it and because the people you touch will touch other people and perpetuate that love and create a better world. That should be the only mission, the only why you do things. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Shahrokh. That was really, really extremely inspirational, and thank you for being here. Now the stage is again for the students, so if you have any questions, this is the time to put your hands on. There is somebody who would like to ask there, and I would like to ask those who are asking, please stand up if you are not, because it will be then visible for everybody.
I have to say there's a lot smarter people to answer your questions than me, right? I just tried to put it into tips together. So probably if you ask your questions, I will ask other people to help me answer it, because it offers multiple opinions.
Danke für die Präsentation.
Gerne.
My question is, like, first of all my respect to the refugees. It's amazing what you went through, like, in the end, Tabrik. So it's a bit personal, but in the beginning you said to focus on one thing, but also to, like, get all of our goals reached and, like, ready for anything. And my two dreams are to become a doctor and a pilot. But it's both really different. And in school, I have to study biology and chemistry, and for pilot, mathematics or biology, sorry. So now I have to focus on four things, like, first of all, English, it's ready already. Then mathematics, biology, and chemistry, like, it's a lot. But to get my dream, like, done, I have to do all of this. So what would you recommend? Like, my plan is to start with medicine here in Szeged. And in my fourth year, I want to start the pilot school in Budapest. And
so I think, and I'm, you know, when I get questions like this, I'm really excited. Because first of all, you know what you want to do, you have a dream, and you have already figured out what you want to do, right? Now it's only about getting the mix right to get to that goal. And that trajectory can have many things, and there will maybe on the way other things that will come that will maybe change that trajectory. It doesn't matter. You have it clearly in your heart and your mind where you want to go, and you're going to be successful 100%, I'm sure about that. So how to get there? They will have different mentors that maybe help you find the right way, or they may help you open a door to make the right move at that moment. And you have to put you in the position to have that. So, and I think piloting and what you need for piloting, or for anything that matter, is not that different, right? Just at one time, you can only do one thing. And you have already figured out. So you need to be focused on medicine, give it all, and nothing can distract you. And then you have different phases because these are pretty intensive. And that time you have to do that. And then you're going to come to the hard phase because for me, for example, similarly, I wanted to be a doctor. Then I did a PhD 5 years in a lab. And then I had to go back to be a doctor. It's also very different because these are two different mental approaches, experiences. And then you will have a hard time integrating, but it will happen. And you will be the one breed of specific person who has both. And imagine how valuable you got to be to the surrounding of you. And what a role model you can be to others that are going to come through showing you a way. So I think you've got it already figured out. You don't need my answer. And you just don't have to allow anybody or anything hold you from that dream achieving it. And if it's a hardship, if it's leaving the country, if it's leaving the thing, and maybe not being comfortable and do it in Szeged and do it in this other place, just go, put yourself in that position, but don't give up the dream where you want to end up.
Merci.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you.
And I think, look, most things people are trying, you want to be a doctor and a pilot, but these are job descriptions. Probably what is really deep down, you have to ask yourself, why do I want to be those two things? What do I want to fulfill? Because it's what I find often people achieve their dream, right? They achieve their dream. And the dream could be anything. And then they're like, what do I got to do now? Those points you put are infinite goals, right? Because with that, suddenly you're in a position to make a great impact. And that impact we cannot even start imagining, because we don't know how future medicine is going to be. We don't even know how future piloting is going to be, right? How AI will change both. But I think these people like you that are between two worlds are those that are the most exciting because they're going to enrich both. But it will go through a long learning, a long hardship. Because people with the pilots will say, oh, you're not a real pilot. And the doctors will say, well, you're not a real doctor, but you have to live with that. It's okay. You don't have to be a real pilot or a real doctor. You can be both. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? In the middle? Yeah. Could you stand up? It's easier for the others as well.
Again, I feel like I'm not the right person to probably answer all those questions. I will say a lot of stupidities. I apologize. Probably other people should. Please.
So you said that whenever somebody comes to you with a problem, then you should never say that I have to mind my own problems and I have to take care of myself. You should put your problems aside and always help. And I would like to ask you that how can you always find the energy when you have your own problems too, and how can you always have the energy to help others?
Well, you know, you have always a lot of important things to do in your life, right? And you have your own problems. Certainly, you have your own fears, your own things. But I think helping others makes you grow and you learn from them. And there's certainly an incredible reward in that. Because I feel when you help other people, you get incredible energy back. And we live in a community, and they will help you. You know, in my operation room, in my hospital, the nurses shut down the operation room at 4 o'clock. Because they say, we're going home. But all the nurses, when I'm doing operation, they say, we stay until 8 o'clock. Why? Because they know I will go that way for them. I will do that for them. And we're doing it for a higher cause. So I think that putting yourself in that giving phase, in that, you know, in that constantly helping others and giving is rewarding for you, but it will also make you more successful at what you're doing, and your level of problems will decrease because they will make it easier for you in your surrounding. There's going to be moments where you're going to have so big problems where you have to probably say stop. And say, excuse me, at this moment, I really cannot do this. But explain also why and come back to them. And there's moments where you're going to be extremely vulnerable or hurting. And you have to, at the same time of giving, also learn how to ask for help. And that is even more difficult than giving, right? Giving is not difficult. It's natural in us. We can only survive as a species if we help each other, work together, right? Progress happens, science happens together in these groups, you know? Everything, survival of a species 30,000 years ago happened. That is wired in us. But you also have to ask for help. So when you feel you're really down, you have to go and you're getting into a depressed phase or something is really painful. For me as a surgeon, you can't believe how many complications I had. Nights I couldn't sleep and asked people. And I had to learn and not to be the strong and things. I think ladies are better than men at this and asking for help and getting and being accepting being vulnerable. And it's about human relationships. So I think, because we had these questions earlier this afternoon, what is mentorship? It's like a friend at the end. You learn both. And both, you learn from your mentee and you teach your mentee. And sometimes when we get to the ultimate level, you don't know who's the mentor in which phase. And making sure, and also it's like a friendship. So finding people around, surrounding yourself by people that give you that type of friendship, and in those moments where you need to say stop can help you give a stop and understand you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I think we have time for one more question.
I should have done a urologic talk. I would be less stressed about the questions and saying something correct.
Thank you. I'd like to compose a rather paradox question, if I may, probably in the name of most of the students here. You mentioned focusing on something that inspires and really motivates us to do something good for human beings. And that's key to success, and I agree in that. But I think as a high school student, especially in Hungary, but probably in other countries as well, it's really hard to focus on biology and chemistry because the schooling expects from us to be good at maths and history and literature, because we need those subjects to be able to learn at university. And in my personal opinion, and I think many others agree with me, that once we start focusing on biology and chemistry and start going to competitions and learning more than most students our age, our grades in other subjects start dropping back. But we need good grades to be able to go to good university or somewhere that we would like to go to. But at the same time, if we put our energy in the good grades, then we sort of start losing the fire that burns in us to motivate us to become a physician or a researcher or whatever our goal is. How can we solve this problem?
Well, it's a matter of, in general, I think, if you're good, if you're a curious mind, a lot of specialties that will interest you, right? And you will learn from also, because if you learn, biology, mathematics is going to be essential, physics is going to be essential. So they all cross, all those specialties will be enriching. And there's certainly phases in your life, and I had it in my slide, I say, because I had to learn it the hard way. You need, when I came to Austria, I was an American-trained surgeon. And in Austria, the urologist does also medical oncology. So I had to, as a senior guy, learn medical oncology, and when things I didn't learn, I got help. So I guess, and you come at a different university, different rules, different times. So there are different phases in your life where do you also have to accept to play the game that is currently played. So you have to accept the game in a certain time to get into universities. There's certain criteria, and you need to learn that game and play it better than other ones. And understand, this may not be what you're going to do forever, but at this moment you need to do that, right? And honestly, I think the week has so many hours that you have enough time for the hobbies, and they will go into your work and hobbies, so there is enough time. And you can also, and there's different times you need to do different things. So I think this is possible to merge it. You're never going to be perfect. I think the same question arises, people ask me, well, how are you going to do? You have two little children, You're running the cancer center, you're doing this, that. You cannot be good at all those things. No, I'm not good at all. So I'm always thinking, oh my God, I need to do more. I need to read more. Sometimes I come to a science meeting, I'm saying, oh my God, I need to be a better scientist, and so on. So the different phases when you start getting to the level where early on, but also later on when you need to learn leadership and grow other people, we need to integrate all those different skill sets that you may not have or may not like, but are necessary to succeed. But you need to grow them as well. And by the way, by putting yourself in this uncomfortable situation of learning something that you don't think is important, you're probably going to grow even more. So this discomfort is necessary. And you know, last thing I will say, there's this guy on YouTube, right? No, it's on Facebook. I don't know if you guys have seen. This is this rabbi. He tells this story, you know, he has discomfort. He says, you know, how does, how do you call it, this animal? Anyway, sea animal with a crust, I forgot. Anyway, grow. So this animal, to grow, he needs to break his carcass. When he breaks his carcass, he's very vulnerable, right? Other animals can attack it, he will die. And to break his carcass, he needs to have pain. He needs to, they measured his neurological activity, they think that means pain. So he goes through pain, and then vulnerable, he has to hide on the stone, but then he will grow a new one, and he will be bigger himself. So these are the phases of growth. Sometimes accepting the discomfort, learning it, and not having easy, fast results, but going the hard way, but learning through that and using that for what you need in the future to achieve your goals. Because your goal cannot be a degree. Your goal cannot be a title. These are not goals. It's an infinite. It's creating something good. That will be a motor that will always. And it can happen in many ways and many shapes. And you will be also, I think, in times where you have to accept that you will be deviated. If you ask all the top people here, was I planning to be a urologist? I was not a 14-year-old guy saying, I want to be a urologist, right? People would laugh about me. At the end, I ended here because a lot of things that I accepted, the challenges, and did something I didn't want to do, or happened that but it jived with who I wanted to be. I jived. My mentors were the people I met, oh, I want to be like that person. And it jived what I wanted to do with my life, helping people through whatever measure. I could have been a scientist. I could have been whatever other job, nurse, whatever. I could be millions of jobs. But as long as the ultimate goal was to creating goodness in a society and serving the society and other people and helping them with their suffering, that I knew I wanted to be. Through mathematics or molecular biology.
Okay, thank you very much. Of course, we could continue tomorrow morning, but we have to say sometimes, so please stay here, and we are more than happy, and I ask András to present you about the certificate, the medal, and the stamps.
I feel like an imposter here. I only have to say